There is a war happening inside you right now, and the strangest part, both sides are you. You wake up, and before your feet touch the floor, the voices begin. I should have said that differently yesterday. Why do I always do this? I need to be better. I need to be more. I need to finally become the person I keep promising myself I'll be. And beneath it all, quieter, almost too quiet to hear. But what if I'm already enough? Then the louder voice drowns it out again. This is the battlefield of the inner life, not a place of swords and shields, but of thoughts circling like birds that never land. One moment you're convinced you know who you are. The next, you doubt everything. One part of you wants to let go. Another part grips tighter. You are the warrior and the wound, the question and the silence after it. Most of us spend our entire lives in this conflict, never realizing we're fighting a war that doesn't need to be fought. We think the goal is to win, to finally conquer doubt, to silence fear, to eliminate the parts of ourselves we don't like. But what if the real question isn't how do I win? What if it's something softer, something we've been too afraid to ask? Picture this: a child stands at the edge of a river. The water is moving fast, carrying leaves, branches, pieces of the world downstream. The child reaches out and grabs a stick floating by, then another, then another. Soon, their arms are full. They can barely hold on, but they don't let go. Someone asks, "Why are you holding all of that?" And the child says, "Because I thought I was supposed to." This is us. We hold on to identities we built when we were young. We carry stories we told ourselves to survive. We grip beliefs that once protected us, but now imprison us. You hold the image of who you think you should be: the successful one, the loved one, the strong one, the healed one. And when reality doesn't match that image, the conflict begins. You think, "I should be further along by now. I should be calmer, wiser, more certain." And underneath that thought is an ache, a longing, not for success or approval, but for something you can't quite name. The Sufis tell a story about a man who spent his whole life building a house. Every day he added another brick, another room, another wall. He wanted it to be perfect, a reflection of his worth, his effort, his existence. One day, a traveler passed by and asked, "Who are you building this for?" The man paused. He had never considered the question. "For myself," he finally said. The traveler smiled. "Then why does it feel like a prison?" The man looked at his house, this thing he had spent years constructing, and realized he had built it so well he could no longer leave. This is what we do with our identities. We build them brick by brick. I am someone who doesn't give up. I am someone who stays strong. I am someone who has it together. And then we spend the rest of our lives trying to live up to the house we built. But here's the truth: most of us are terrified to face you are not the house. You never were. The conflict inside you is not between good and bad. It's not between your higher self and your lower self. It's not even between your past and your future. It's between the you that you think you need to be and the you that already is. One side says, keep striving, keep fixing, keep improving. You're not there yet. The other side whispers, you were never broken. And we stand in the middle, exhausted, wondering why peace feels so far away. You scroll through your phone and see people who seem to have it figured out. You read books that promise transformation. You try meditation, affirmations, new routines, new ways of thinking. And sometimes, for a moment, you feel lighter. But then the conflict returns, because you're still asking the wrong question. Most of us ask, how do I fix myself? How do I become better? How do I finally stop feeling this way? These questions assume something is wrong. They assume you are a problem to be solved. But what if you're not? What if the very act of trying to fix yourself is the conflict? What if the war inside you doesn't end when you finally become perfect, but when you stop demanding perfection in the first place? There is one question that has the power to end this, not by giving you an answer, but by dissolving the need for one. It's not a complicated question. In fact, it's so simple, you might dismiss it at first. But if you let it settle into you, if you ask it with gen honesty, and an open heart, it will change everything. Before we get to that question, you need to understand something. The reason you haven't found peace yet isn't because you're not trying hard enough. It's because you're trying to win a game that was rigged from the start. The conflict inside you isn't a flaw. It's not evidence that something is wrong with you. It's a signpost, a messenger, and it's been trying to tell you something all along. In the next part, we'll go deeper. We'll look at where this conflict actually comes from, not from your circumstances, not from your past, but from a single misunderstanding about who you are. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The conflict inside you exists because you believe in a lie. And you've believed it for so long, you forgot it wasn't true. When you were born, there was no conflict. You didn't look in the mirror and wonder if you were enough. You didn't question your worth. You didn't compare yourself to anyone. You simply were. But then something happened. You began to learn. You learned your name. You learned what made people smile and what made them frown. You learned that some behaviors were rewarded and others were punished. And slowly, without realizing it, you began to build a self. Not your true self. A conceptual self. A self made of thoughts, labels, memories, and stories. I am the quiet one. I am the smart one. I am the one who always messes up. I am the one who has to be strong. And the moment you identified with that self, the conflict began. Because now there were two of you. There was the self you believed, you were the character in the story, the person with a past and a future, the one trying to survive and succeed. And there was the awareness watching, all of it the quiet presence that noticed the thoughts, felt the feelings, observed the struggle. The first self lives in time. It worries about yesterday and tomorrow. It measures itself against others. It feels inadequate, overwhelmed, afraid. The second self lives in now. It doesn't judge. It doesn't strive. It simply witnesses. The conflict you feel is the tension between these two. The conceptual self, what we often call the ego, is not evil. It's not something to destroy. It's just confused. It thinks it's you. And because it thinks it's you, it will do anything to protect itself. It will defend your opinions as if they are your identity. It will cling to your story as if it's your life. It will fight to prove you're right, to show you're worthy, to ensure you're not forgotten. And every time you try to fix yourself, improve yourself, become a better version of yourself, you're reinforcing the ego's game. Because the ego loves self-improvement. It loves the idea that one day, if you just work hard enough, you'll finally be complete. But here's the trap: the ego will never let you arrive. Because if you arrived, If you realized you were already whole, the ego would have no purpose. So it keeps you searching, keeps you striving, keeps you believing that peace is just one more achievement away. There's a Sufi teaching that goes like this. A man knocked on a door. A voice inside asked, "Who is there?" The man said, "It is I." The door remained closed. Years later, the man returned and knocked again. The voice asked, "Who is there?" This time, the man said, "It is you." The door opened. When you say, I, when you identify completely with the constructed self, you are locked out of peace, locked out of presence, locked out of the very thing you're searching for. Because the I you're defending doesn't actually exist, not in the way you think it does. It's a collection of thoughts, a pattern of reactions, a story you keep telling, and the moment you stop defending it, the door opens. So here's the question, the one that ends the conflict, the one that dissolves the illusion. It's not a question you ask once and move on. It's a question you return to again and again whenever the war inside you begins. Are you ready? Here it is. Who is aware of this? That's it. 6 words. But don't dismiss it. Don't rush past it. Let it land. When you're caught in a storm of thoughts, I'm not good enough, I'm failing, I'm lost, pause. And ask who is aware of this thought. When you feel anger rising, when you feel fear gripping your chest, when you feel the familiar ache of inadequacy, pause. And ask who is aware of this feeling. When you're tangled in a memory, replaying something you said or didn't say, something you did or failed to do, pause. And ask who is aware of this memory. What you'll notice, if you stay with the question, is this. The thought is observed. The feeling is observed. The memory is observed. Which means you are not the thought. You are not the feeling. You are not the memory. You are the one noticing. You are the awareness itself. And awareness doesn't have a conflict. It doesn't have a story. It doesn't need to become anything because it already is everything. The war inside you is between 2 false selves, 2 ideas, 2 identities, 2 versions of me. But the real you, the awareness, was never at war. It's been here the whole time, watching patiently, waiting for you to remember. This is not about transcending your humanity. It's not about escaping your emotions or denying your experience. It's about recognizing the space in which all of it happens. When you ask, who is aware of this? You step back from the battlefield. You stop being the warrior and the wound. You become the sky that holds both. And in that space, the conflict dissolves. Not because you solved it, but because you saw through it. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I understand this intellectually, but how do I actually live it? How do I apply this when I'm overwhelmed, when I'm triggered, when the conflict feels so real? That's what we'll explore next, because this isn't just a philosophy, it's a practice, a way of being, a return to what you've always been. Understanding this changes nothing. Returning to it again and again changes everything. You now know the question, who is aware of this? But knowing it is not the same as living it. Because tomorrow you'll wake up and forget. You'll get caught in a thought. You'll react to a situation. You'll feel the old conflict rising, and that's okay. That's part of the path. This isn't about perfection. It's about remembering. The practice is simple. When you notice you're lost in the story, in the emotion, in the identity, ask the question. Not as a mantra, not as a technique to fix yourself, but as an invitation to come home. Let's say you're feeling anxious. Your chest is tight. Your mind is racing. You're imagining worst-case scenarios, replaying conversations, worrying about what's next. The old approach would be to fight the anxiety, to tell yourself, I shouldn't feel this way. I need to calm down. What's wrong with me? But that just adds another layer of conflict. Instead, pause, feel the anxiety fully. Don't push it away. And then ask, who is aware of this anxiety? Notice the shift. The anxiety is still there, but suddenly there's space around it. You're no longer in the anxiety. You're the awareness of the anxiety. And in that awareness, there's room to breathe. The anxiety might not disappear immediately, but it no longer owns you. Or maybe you've made a mistake, said something you regret, did something you wish you could take back. The voice in your head starts, you always do this? You never learn. You're such a failure. The old response would be to either believe the voice or fight it, to spiral into shame or force yourself into false positivity. But both responses keep you trapped in the story. Instead, notice the voice, hear the words, feel the sting of the judgment, and ask, who is aware of this self-judgment? Suddenly, you're no longer the character being judged. You're the space in which the judgment appears. And from that space, you can respond with compassion instead of condemnation. Here's the paradox. This practice requires no effort and all your attention. You don't have to force awareness. You already are awareness. You just have to stop pretending you're something else. But it takes vigilance. It takes a willingness to catch yourself again and again in the act of identification. Every time you notice you've been lost in thought, you've already returned. Every time you ask the question, you've already found the answer. Your ego will resist this. It has to, because this practice threatens its existence. It will tell you this is too simple, too vague, too impractical. It will say, this doesn't solve my real problems. I still have bills to pay, relationships to navigate, a life to live. And that's true. This practice doesn't eliminate your responsibilities. It doesn't make your challenges disappear, but it changes your relationship to them. When you're identified with the story, every challenge is a threat. Every setback is evidence of your inadequacy. Every conflict confirms your fears. But when you live from awareness, challenges are just challenges. Setbacks are just events. Conflicts are just temporary turbulence in the vast sky of your being. You respond instead of react. You engage instead of defend. You live instead of survive. There's a Zen koan that asks, what was your face before your parents were born? It's not asking for a literal answer. It's pointing you toward the awareness that existed before your story began. Before you learned your name, before you developed your personality, before you decided who you were supposed to be. That awareness is still here. It never left. And every time you ask, who is aware of this, you're touching that original face. You've already experienced this, even if you didn't realize it. Those rare moments when time seems to stop. When you're watching a sunset and suddenly you're not thinking about yesterday or tomorrow. You're just there, fully present, no separation between you and the sky. Or when you're with someone you love and the conversation flows, and for a few minutes you forget to worry, forget to perform, forget to be anyone at all. Or when you're creating something and you lose yourself completely. And then hours later, you come back and realize you were more yourself than ever. These moments aren't accidents. They're glimpses of your true nature. They happen when the conceptual self steps aside and awareness shines through. The practice is learning to live there more often, not by forcing it, but by removing the obstacles, by asking the question that dissolves the illusion. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions. You don't have to be enlightened or healed or ready. You can ask the question right now. Whatever you're feeling in this moment, peace, restlessness, curiosity, doubt, ask ye, who is aware of this? And feel what happens. Not in your thoughts, but in your being. Notice the space. Notice the stillness. Notice the awareness that's always been here, patiently waiting. This practice will change your life, but not in the way you expect. It won't make you perfect. It won't eliminate all your problems. It won't turn you into some enlightened being floating above the world. But it will free you from the tyranny of the ego, from the endless cycle of striving and failing, from the war inside you, and in that freedom, you'll discover something you've been searching for all along. Let's talk about what that is. The conflict ends not when you find what you're looking for, but when you realize you were never lost. Most people spend their entire lives seeking happiness, seeking meaning, seeking peace, seeking love, seeking their purpose. And the seeking itself becomes the problem. Because seeking assumes you don't have what you're looking for. It assumes you're incomplete. It assumes the answer is somewhere out there, in the future, in another place, in another version of you. But here's what every mystic, every sage, every awakened being has tried to tell us. What you're seeking is already here. It's not hidden. It's not far away. It's not reserved for the worthy or the wise. It's the awareness reading these words right now. When you ask, who is aware of this? Enough times, something shifts. You stop waiting for the conflict to end. You stop trying to fix yourself. You stop seeking peace in the future. Because you realize you are already the peace you've been seeking. Not the you, with a name and a story and a past. Not the you that worries and doubts and strives, but the deeper you, the aware presence. The consciousness that's been here all along, watching the whole drama unfold. The thoughts come and go. The emotions rise and fall. The identities shift and change, but you remain constant, unchanging, whole. Imagine the ocean. On the surface, there are waves, some gentle, some violent, some peaceful, some chaotic. Each wave thinks it's separate. It thinks it needs to become a better wave, a bigger wave, a more successful wave. It compares itself to other waves. It worries about crashing. It fears being forgotten. But beneath the surface, there's only ocean. Every wave is made of the same water. Every wave rises from the same source. Every wave returns to the same depth. The conflict ends when the wave realizes it was never separate from the ocean. You are not the wave. You are the ocean, temporarily expressing itself as a wave. And when you know this not intellectually, but experientially, everything changes. This doesn't mean your personality disappears. It doesn't mean you stop caring about your life, your relationships, your dreams. It means you hold them lightly. You still feel sadness, but you're not consumed by it. You still face challenges, but you're not defined by them. You still have preferences, but you're not enslaved by them. You engage with life fully, but you don't cling to outcomes. You love deeply, but you don't demand that love complete you. You strive, create, contribute, but you don't need success to validate your existence. Because your existence was never in question. You are. You have always been. You will always be. And that knowing is freedom. This teaching is so simple, the mind wants to complicate it. We want steps, stages, levels of awakening, proof that we're making progress. But there are no steps. There's only recognition. Like when you're searching for your glasses and realize they're on your head. You didn't find them. You just stopped looking. The conflict inside you ends the same way. Not because you solved it, but because you saw through it. So now you have the question. Who is aware of this? Use it when you're overwhelmed. Use it when you're lost. Use it when you forget who you really are. Let it become a touchstone, a reminder, a way back home. And over time, you won't need to ask it as often, because you'll be living from the answer. You'll move through the world with less resistance, less judgment, less need to prove or protect or perfect. You'll still be human beautifully, messily human. But you'll no longer be at war with yourself. The greatest gift of this realization is not that you become special. It's that you realize you were never separate. You're not separate from life. You're not separate from other people. You're not separate from this moment. The boundaries you thought divided you from the world were always imaginary. And when those boundaries dissolve, so does the conflict. What remains is love. Not the romantic kind, not the conditional kind, but love as the natural expression of awareness. Love as the recognition that what you see in others is also in you. Love as the absence of separation. The war inside you has raged long enough. You've tried to win it. You've tried to end it through strength, through surrender, through self-improvement, through letting go. But it ends with a question, a simple question that changes everything. Who is aware of this? Ask it, return to it, live from it. And one day, you'll realize the conflict was never real. There was only awareness, playing hide and seek with itself. And now the game is over. You've been found. Not by someone else, but by yourself. Welcome home. The one who hears these words, that's who you are. Not the story, not the struggle, not the seeker, just the awareness, just the presence, just the peace you've been searching for. It was here all along, and it will never leave.